Hi everyone, this is Tim Watson from Oxford Computer Group. Today's webinar, we're going to talk about creating efficient, compliant, and successful attestation campaigns. Today's webinar is going to help you understand what is needed to create an attestation campaign, including prerequisites, and explain why they are needed. All this is to allow your campaign to be successful and to stay compliant. I thought about doing a webinar on actually creating campaigns, but Saviynt makes that so easy with the amount of clicks to get a campaign going that probably would not fit the timeline of a webinar. It'd be very short. So I did want to go over everything else that you need to gather before you start that campaign. So on our agenda today is types of campaigns. We're going to talk about some data house cleaning. You want to be able to communicate with your certifiers for campaigns. We'll go over that. And you also have to make sure everyone can get into Saviynt and have the proper permissions to do campaigns. And the last thing we'll do is talk about some campaign tips. A few things I put in there that I've experienced over the years doing campaigns. Okay, a little bit about Oxford Computer Group. Oxford Computer Group is an identity-driven security company. We've been around for, it says 19 plus years. We've done, many projects, delivered identity management projects. You can see just a few there, 900. We've always been in contention for Partner of the Year, and we do have our deep connections within Microsoft and Saviynt engineering teams. But we do go through the different pillars of a project, your planning and assessment, your deployment services, and your managed services. And you can also see there that we have a separate training company. Over the years, we've trained thousands and thousands of people on MIM, on Azure. So we've very lucky to have excellent trainers, and I know a lot of you probably know us from training. So let's get into the webinar. So first thing I want to talk about is campaign types. If you don't know what a campaign is the mechanism in Saviynt to schedule a process to allow someone who is a certifier to allow the action of checking that people do have the correct accounts and entitlements. Entitlements could be access and permissions at an endpoint. And they will attest, or you may call it certify, that they should keep or remove that access. So if I am a certifier, I'm going to certify my direct reports, and I'm going to see all my direct reports and the accounts and access they have. And I'm going to say I accept or I revoke that for a person. So that is what a campaign is. So we have different types of campaigns in Saviynt. We have a user manager campaign. Basically, what it sounds like, I'm going to review all my direct reports, their access, and their accounts. I have an entitlement owner campaign. An entitlement, again, could be some type of access in the system or permission. An entitlement in Active Directory is an Active Directory group. That's called an entitlement in Saviynt. So you could put an owner on that group that would come into Saviynt, and the owners of those entitlements would be doing the certification. Application owner is a little similar, but now you have multiple entitlements in one application. So that application owner would attest all those entitlements in that application. Organization owner, something in Saviynt that you can do. If you don't want to have all users in a flat directory in Saviynt, you can slice it out to different organizations. So every organization can have its separate users and applications, and within, of course, those applications, you have accounts and entitlements. So if you just want to, do a campaign just for organizations, you can. And then there's service account owners and self-certification. Service account owners, the carbon-based life form accounts out there that many people have, you have the ability to import all your service accounts and do campaigns on them, and self-certification. I believe self-certification campaigns are gaining popularity since you do have a lot of security policies that people have to conform to now. They are willing to say, I need this access or I don't need this access. A lot of people now are willing to get up their admin rights if they notice they're doing a self-certification that I have admin rights to this application still. I do not need that. I don't want that just in case, my account is compromised. So self-certification is out there and it is working. So let's talk about some house cleaning. Again, we're trying to make everything and get all the information before we actually create a campaign. So user accounts, entitlements, certifiers are all part of a campaign. So we have to, we need to look at all these items to make sure our data is correct. So for users, we are going to look at a couple of analytics later in the webinar, and we'll show that to you. But for users, I always like to look for users without managers because, again, what we're going to go over shortly here is campaign communications and just in general, providing user manager campaigns. So I got to make sure everyone has a manager that's going to be in the campaign. And I also want to make sure that these managers and anyone, if you're doing a user manager campaign or a self-certification, you got to make sure people have emails. If someone does not have an email, those communications that go out will never be received and people will not know that a campaign has started. So campaigns, what we really want to do is certify or attest, the accounts and entitlements. So if it's not in your campaign, you're not going to see it, and then you're not going to be compliant. So for accounts, I always want to make sure I look at my orphan accounts. An orphan account is an account that is in Saviynt that is not linked or correlated to a user. So you don't know who that account is for. You cannot manage it. So that's why we want to make sure we look at all our orphan accounts and we link them to a user, which we'll look at later in the demo. That is a very important analytic out there. If you have a lot of people that are active with accounts and they're not linked to some, there's no way you can automate some deprovisioning functions on that person. So they'll linger around. That's always got to come up in an audit if they find active accounts sitting around, not linked to someone. So we want to make sure those get cleaned up. So there's different ways that you can associate orphan accounts to users. The one way is an analytic control, which we'll show. The other way is from the admin tab, which is more of a manual process. I can manually find that account in the Saviynt console and I can link it to a user. Saviynt has the concept of correlation rules. I can create a rule that says this account's same account name matches the user in Savient's system username, which is usually where you put like an account name or any other custom attribute you want to use. So it's going to correlate that. Some terms also are called joining. So we want to make sure that's done. I can do that either by a connection, which is a connector to that system. When it imports, it does the correlation, or when you run a upload by a CSV. So a CSV file can be uploaded into Saviynt, and as long as you have those correlation keys, they will join also. So the same thing goes for entitlements. You are going to have entitlements out there. I'm going to use Active Directory a lot in this webinar since most people have Active Directory. I have all my 80 groups as entitlements in Saviynt. I may not have an owner for all those groups. So I'm going to run some analytics and it's going to show us how we can say for this entitlement, I'm going to give this owner to it. I can also, again, do that in the admin tab by going to the entitlement and manually associate it, and also the entitlement upload by CSV and connection. Same as accounts. So there's an automated process coming in, and it'll see the owner on the group in Active Directory, and it will update the owner also on the entitlement. So those are, again, all these prerequisites we're doing. We're house clean. We want to make sure that we run these analytics so we know everything's going to be in our campaign. Again, the reason you're doing campaigns probably is because you have audit needs. And if you're running campaigns missing a lot of users, accounts, and entitlements, you will possibly fail an audit. So we talked about doing some of the cleanup, the house cleaning, and we talked about communications, and that's why we're doing it. So campaign communications are what you can do in Saviynt to notify users of everything about the campaign. So let's get into that. So in Saviynt, there are different stages of notifications. There are many in here. I'll go through these really quick. So a preview email template in Saviynt allows you to create a campaign and put it in preview mode. So basically, it is a read-only campaign. So it allows you to look at everything that's going to happen in your campaign before you actually activate it and run it. So this can be very useful if you just want to make sure everything's right. You want to make sure your certifiers are there. A lot of times, if you do not give a default certifier in a campaign, you're going to have users missed, because if they didn't have a manager, they're not going to be associated to a campaign. So that's there if you want it. If you don't have to, but you can send an email when that starts. The create email template, almost every time you're going to use this one, you want it to tell your user base that this campaign has started. They'll get an email. You could provide a link. They click on the link, it goes to Saviynt, so everything's done for them. You could possibly put some more information in that email, which we'll talk about here shortly. So the create email template is there. The complete, again, that's probably something you want to use. That's going to tell you you've completed your campaign, everything looks good, you're done. The consult email template is when someone does go into their campaign, Saviynt does give you the option for a particular user, any user, to consult. Let's say I'm running my campaign. I don't really manage this person, even though they're my direct report. Maybe it's just for HR purposes. I can say, you know what, this person really has a functional manager that does their day-to-day. So I'm going to consult this person. And as soon as I do that, I can fire an email to that person, say, this person is saying that you need to consult their access. So that's why you have that email template. And of course, you have a complete with the consult. So it's good for them to know that they did that, their job is finished. Go to reassign. That's a little bit different than consult. Reassign is when someone's campaign is entirely reassigned to someone else. The consult is different. Someone is doing the campaign, but they just want one or two people that they need consulting for. The other one is that maybe a person is reassigning because during the campaign, they're not going to be available. Maybe they're on vacation or something, so they're going to reassign it to someone else. But you can notify someone on that. Expiry email template, probably, again, most of the times is used because people will have an expiration on their campaigns, and you want to make sure that you notify them at least, days in advance or a week that, hey, it's going to expire. You got to get this done before it expires. Last but not least, we have a revoke task email template. In Saviynt, you do have option, you're going to accept people or you're going to revoke their access. So if you do revoke their access and you do have the ability to configure the task to be automatically disabling an entitlement, if you're connected. So again, with the Active Directory example, I have a connection in Saviynt to Active Directory. I can automatically deprovision access to an Active Directory group. So if I do select revoke, an automatic task will be created for that deprovision access. So it is useful that someone is revoking. You want to get those emails. And all these emails can be sent to anyone with the correct variables within Saviynt. So those are the different stages. I, again, would point out most people do a create email template, a complete email template, and expiration email template, but there are other notification stages out there if needed. So for reminders, you are going to send these emails out, but you do want to remind people. So, as anything, some companies are different. Some like lots of reminders and people are good about that, and then some don't want too many reminders. So yeah, I think it's something that you think about your user base, your audience there. Do you need to remind them a lot? Do you not? I know a lot of people see reminders and just don't look at it, but some of the things to think about is that Saviynt does give you 5 different reminders. So I can remind the same email 5 times. So I always like to say, just look at the easy math there. If you do create a campaign that is 30 days long, so as soon as it starts, you only get 30 days to complete it. Make sure your reminders line up. I'm not going to send, 5 reminders every week. I mean, that goes over my expiration time. So just look at that. And then we have email templates. All this is going to get done, but unless you create the proper email templates, because the wording could be different for each and every one, you do have to gather the information you want in your email template. So I'm going to probably reach out to a department that does communications. People creating the campaigns might be from compliance, and they know what the wording should be, or if a lot of times IT has to do this, they might not know, the wording in there, and they might not know that when I send an email, I'm also going to put a link in there to the policy that they do have to do this. So it's always good to reach out to the different departments to see what should be in your email template. So our next topic is Saviynt roles, SAV roles. This is the internal permissions within Saviynt. So for campaigns, here's some key Saviynt roles. You always want a campaign manager. Campaign managers can create campaigns, they can see all the campaigns, they can reconfigure them, export them, and if they need to, they can discontinue. Discontinue meaning in Saviynt, like canceling. Then I'll go down to the reviewer. There's always going to be a reviewer, also known as, the attester or the certifier. These are the people that get invited to say this person should or should not have access. So we have to make sure, all these reviewers do have the required access to review a certification in Saviynt. So it's not just the certifiers. You also have campaign owners because they need to see things. And also we talked about the consultees or someone that's reassigned. So anyone that you think would participate in there needs to be a reviewer. And then there also could be an auditor. I like to throw this one in there because the auditor probably doesn't know about all your campaigns that go on throughout the year, but they are going to be tasked to gather this information one day. So they're going to be able to go into Saviynt and they can see all the campaigns and they can review the summary of the campaigns, and then they'll have the ability to export that campaign. So if they do need to give it to an external auditor, they can. So if there are questions, they can say, here's all the campaigns we ran, and here's all the information. So that's why I put the auditor in there. But the one thing to understand about the auditor there, the last bullet, is that it's pretty much read-only. They cannot take actions on the campaign. They're just there to look at it and provide what's needed. All right, so we talked about campaign tips. So came up a couple things here to keep in mind. So when you do create a campaign, there's so many options. We've gathered all this information. How do we know if we run this large campaign for, you've got thousands of users in your user base sometimes, and maybe hundreds of certifiers. How do you know it's going to work? So I always say, let's do a pilot campaign first. Let's choose just one application to keep the account entitlement base down, and let's limit the options that we put in that campaign. Again, we're not going to review everything and how to create a campaign today, but if you've been using Saviynt, if you've used other attestation products out there, they've put a lot of options in there of what you can do. So if I'm turning on a lot of options, that makes it more complex. I kind of want to do my first one and kind of make it very simple. So I know when it starts and when you go through it and it ends, everything looks good. So that's why I like to limit my configuration options. And then if I'm doing a pilot, I'm going to select a small but diverse group. I don't, a lot of people do pilots in various things, and they always try to say, let's just make the pilot group the IT people. They know what they're doing. That's the thing. I want to know everything about other people. I want to know, if someone in accounting knows how to do it, if someone in HR knows how to do it, they're going to give different feedback. IT, they are tech savvy. They're going to go through it and be done within 5 minutes. Other people might take an hour to 2 hours, and they might struggle because they're not as tech savvy. So make that pilot group very diverse, and you're going to get good feedback. So this pilot campaign is going to make sure that the communications go out, the proper accounts and entitlements are there, their 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 roles are correct. They do have permissions. Maybe you find out during the campaign that someone does get the email and they click on it and they get the saving. It says access denied. Whoops, we forgot to add them to a SAV role. So that's why you're going through this. We touched on preview mode because there's a preview mode template out there, but this is it. I like to do previews also because it allows me, to do a read-only view of the campaign, so I can verify my certifiers, my accounts, my entitlements. I also like it because I can see if I put a default certifier on a campaign, that's kind of a catch-all. If I put myself there and I put it in preview mode, if I see myself as a certifier, I know certain people don't have managers. And if I see myself there, if I have 20 people that should be certifiers and I see myself there 10 times, I know 10 people don't have managers. So that's why I like to do preview mode. And I always like to do an analytic or have a backup for access remediation. That is what we'll show here in the analytic demo, is a way to run an analytic during the campaign from the start to the end and show, let's say I'm going to do it every day. I run this analytic every day. Every day it's going to show me what access people have. So if someone does mistakenly or not knowingly revokes access for someone, we're going to see that, it's going to happen if it's connected to Active Directory. It's going to get deprovisioned. They'll lose access. But we can go into this analytic and say, oh, at this day, we know that person did it on Friday, but on Thursday, this person had, access to this group. So the demo is going to show me I can go to that, I can see it, and I can click a drop down and add them back very quickly. So I always like to create that report, that analytic, and that's part of my access remediation. So now we're going to do a small little demo here of all the analytics we talked about that can help you bring all the correct information into Saviynt so your campaign is successful. I'm going to bring that up right now. And the first one I want to review is I want to show users without managers. So I'm just doing a campaign in Active Directory. So I know this is for only people that have Active Directory accounts. And I'm showing here that these people do not have managers. And as we know, if we're doing a user manager campaign, all these people will not be in the campaign because it automatically creates a campaign for each manager. So I'm missing a lot of people here. So I'm not starting my campaign until this gets down to 0. I don't want anyone, in this report. So, I'm going to say I'm going to export this to Excel, and I'm going to send this off to HR because they're my source of truth for managers, and for some reason they're not coming in for these people. Could be anything. I mean, some HR systems, if a manager leaves, will give you a blank manager. Could be that. Maybe the manager is inactive, which we're going to actually take a look at shortly here. That could cause them to send us a blank also. So that's our first analytic we're looking at. And again, I can export this and send it to someone. If I wanted to, I can make this a dashboard report, or I can give permission to HR to look at this. So over time, they don't, you don't have to send an email. You can just invite them here to take a look at it. We just talked about it, same thing. If someone's inactive, if someone has a manager, but the manager is inactive, they're not going to be able to review it. So I want to look at that also. So I can see this person, this is good, I only have one, and this person manager is inactive. So that manager is not going to have a campaign to review this person. So that's another helpful analytic for users. So now we're into accounts. We're going to do accounts and entitlements here. So Saviynt has a really cool feature that allows you to not only see what accounts are orphaned, it's also going to give you the ability to map them. We originally ran this webinar a couple days ago, and unfortunately we had some video and network issues. So I did run this on Wednesday. Actually, you can see here, map this person to a user object. So test user 3 was an orphan account, but test user 3 is a user, an active user. So I did map them. So I can also go through here and I can say this account, I want to map it to a person. So now I can search for multiple people in here and find their account, and I can choose it and I can map it. And if you do map it, I'm not going to do this now because I don't have the correct person to map it to here in this demo, but I did for this person. So when you do click submit, you can put in some comments and it's going to tell you everything that happened here. So again, I'm doing this for a particular application I know I want to do a campaign on. My query is only going to drive down to a certain application. Again, this is another report that should be 0. I do not want any orphaned accounts, or I'm going to miss it in my campaign. So similar to accounts, we also have entitlements. So if we're doing an entitlement review, we want to make sure every entitlement has a demo, or it's going to be left out. So very similar. I'm going to map my entitlement owner to a person. This one I can say should be test user 3. I can submit that, and I can give comments here, and I can click save, and it's done. So that will automatically map that owner to that entitlement. So if I do run an entitlement campaign on these entitlements, everyone's going to have an owner. If they don't, they will not be in that campaign. So again, this is a larger list, and if I wanted to, I could give this list to maybe the application team that runs this application and they can review it for me. I can invite them in to actually do this, give them permissions. So it is flexible who can actually do take action on these analytics. The next analytic, as we're still gathering information, now we're at the level of communications. If we don't send proper communications out, no one's going to know that the campaign's going on. So we touched on it. We need to make sure people have email addresses. We have all those great notifications we can send out, but they're worthless if they don't get out to people because they don't have an email address. So here's people that don't have email addresses. Again, another query. Maybe it's drilled down to the application specifically. But now I know these people don't have email, so I want to clean this up. What's important to know is, why don't they have email? Usually it comes from Active Directory. A lot of times you'll import your email address from Active Directory. That report here that I just mapped this account to this user. So now that it's mapped, every time I do a import from Active Directory into Saviynt, it's going to bring in all the users that are correlated. So now that I've basically manually correlated this person, you'll see that they'll get an email address. So this, if you do map your orphan accounts, you might see this report go down without actually taking manual intervention on the user object. So those are good things to know. Some of these analytics actually clean up your other ones. So this is for managers, and we talked about self-certification. So it's just not for managers, it's for all users. So proper communications go out. So we talked again about the preview mode. The preview mode will show you everything in the campaign if you're in the attestation module. If you don't want to look at there, you can create a analytic to show you everything that's going on in a preview. I like to run this maybe to look at my blank emails. I created that other analytic, but at least I know this is going to be a live campaign. I know this person doesn't have an email address. Sometimes I'll create this analytic for a preview mode, and it'll give me some more information. Obviously, I've listed a few things here, but you can customize it as you need. You can also maybe show the managers here in their status. So again, another way to clean some of your data up. And the last analytic I do want to show today is what we talked about, the application remediation. So here's a list of access that people have at a particular time. I'm just looking at the most recent ones here, but tomorrow the campaign starts and someone goes in and says, this person didn't need, this purchase order approvals, and they said revoke. And we are connected to Active Directory. So now they were removed from that group in Active Directory. So what I can do is I can come into this analytic, I can find it, and I can say provision access. So if I click provision access, so this person still needed access, it was removed by accident, and this will automatically create a task in Saviynt to Active Directory and add them back. So that's why I wanted to show you this report. It's very powerful. The action tab here in Saviynt, if you haven't used Saviynt before, it does give you the actionable analytics. So there's you could say provision account also, or enable account in case you did a revoke on an account and disabled it. So this also gives you ability to enable accounts, update accounts, provision, deprovision. So these reports are very powerful, but I've learned to use it to show all the access people had before the campaign and add it back if needed. So that is it for our analytic demo. And just to recap, we've gone over a lot of things that have, brought all this information in. We've checked on, what type of campaign we're going to want to run. We've done some housekeeping. We've made sure our communications are going to be good. We made sure everyone has proper access in Saviynt, and we went over some common day scenarios that I've had experience throughout the years. So that is it for this webinar. Thank you everyone for coming and attending, and that is it for today. Thank you.